can't afford to make mistakes, because a mistake can set you back another year and another year and another year. Before you know it, like 6 years have gone and you're still trying to figure things out. And, I don't want that for myself. I don't know how New York is going to go. People are going to be surprised.
Do you consider yourself the dark horse going into New York?
I really do, man. I'll be honest. I really do.
Do you find it difficult, or do you think you'll find it difficult when it comes to not only growing your bodybuilding career, but also still wanting to grow this full-time job that you've made a career?
So it depends. I say it this way. There's hundreds of thousands of cyber engineers in the world. There's only top 10 bodybuilders, right? I could be 100 of thousands of one of these, or I could be one of the best.
I don't know. If you are, I'll just fix it again. You were actually the late one this time. I'm surprised.
I apologize, Jim.
I was first for once.
Really? Wow.
Literally.
I just finished a video. Just posted it.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
What is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I watched the first minute of it. Yeah, I watched the first minute. It's well, it was the one you made in response to the bodybuilding trivia video. So I'm gonna watch that.
Right.
I'll link it in the description.
Right.
Yeah.
What's up, Max? I don't think we ever met. I don't think we've ever met before.
No.
Nice to meet you. I actually watch your videos. I think you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think it's cool. You and Ivan. I feel like if Louis Marco was a person and you split him in two, you guys took like two different like aspects of his his stuff.
Ivan's good. Yeah, I just actually mentioned. I gave Ivan a shout out.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I watch Ivan's stuff too.
Is he Evan? I thought I heard him call himself Evan.
Even.
Or yes.
Even.
Yeah.
So I think I'm getting his name wrong when I say it.
I say Ivan too, though.
I
think
I say Ivan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His views are up. His views are up.
Way up. Oh, yeah.
He puts out a lot. He puts out sometimes twice a day, 3 times a day. I'm like, damn. I
really
look out. Yeah, because during cardio in the morning, there's one out. By the time I'm going to lunch, sometimes he already has a second video out. I'm like, dude, like you're working overtime, man. Like now I'm doing YouTube.
Awesome.
The amount of time it takes to produce a video, I don't know how he's doing it. It's kind of crazy.
Some guys get their processes like locked in, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it just depends how fussy you want to be too. Like, I'm a perfectionist by nature, so like I try to just simplify it, but then sometimes I find myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll add this, I'll do this, and I'm like, it's probably not that necessary, like to overall like how much content you can get out.
Yeah.
There's more value at some point in just getting out the content without overemphasizing certain things within the videos where you feel like I have to have this edited. I'm the same way that you are, Xavier. I could go 4 or 5 hours on a video if I really wanted to and make it perfect, or do a 3 to 4 hour thing and then it'd be still very good, but not perfection. There's always a couple of things I could watch in most videos I make, without question. But there is a balance in there. With Even in particular, he's getting more views than even Fazzy, and Fazzy's been putting out 2 videos every day for as long as I can remember. He doesn't miss. And he's even doubling views that Fazzy gets.
That's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, his views are catching up to Nick's Strength and Powers, to tell you the truth.
Wow.
His Nick's are dropping a little bit. His last one was down to like 70,000, and Evans are getting up to like 40s. It's getting
40s?
Obviously he's not as much yet.
Just as
he's got one that's
just as a viewer, you guys are content creators, but just as a viewer and a bodybuilder on the other side, like Fozzy is hard to understand, so I can understand, I can see how Even is actually starting to pull ahead because he's kind of funny. He kind of reminds me of Louis Marco, like he's kind of really funny, with his videos. Yeah. And he's just basically giving you a summary of what's really going on. So yeah, Fozzy's hard to understand. I think that's the handicap that he's unfortunately got with his videos.
Yeah, because his voice is very like acquired. Like I reckon some people probably understand it very well and like can digest it easier. I mean, for me, it's like confronting a little bit. Like he puts out great content, but when he's like, he looks really good, like the way he sort of like pushes it in there. But like people say the same about my voice, but like I can't understand what you're saying. I'm like, that's all good, or like your voice is so annoying. So I'm like, it's like that for everyone.
Yeah, they say that to you. They say that for you, man. I feel like you're pretty calm. You're not like, yeah. It's just, yeah, I don't know. You can't please everyone on YouTube, you know?
People get on Nick Strength and Power, but like he's too monotone. And like I think Mark's
Yeah.
the only one that has a voice that you can't say anything about because it's just like it's the perfect voice, you know?
Yeah, his views are decent right now.
Yeah. They are
10 grand in the last 2, 15 in the one before that.
Yeah. But even is getting it's 17, 23,
no,
28,
even
like
yeah.
14 consistently. Yep. So yeah, good for him. He was actually going to come on the podcast.
Who is?
He was going to. I should reach back out to him again. And
who was?
See, even I was talking to him when he was 3 weeks out from a show, and yeah, he was just like, I'm 3 weeks out. Like, I don't want to do this right now. I get it. We just didn't reschedule, I guess.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got 20, 27,000, 31,000,
yeah.
19, 17.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's doing good.
He's pumping it out. Yeah. He's pumping it out.
And he's a bodybuilder, so it's nice to see somebody without spaghetti arms getting some views.
I don't know, Mark. I saw that back double bicep you put up, and that was not bad, my friend. Not bad.
The back's okay.
Mark, do you know what's crazy?
It is okay.
Do you know what's crazy? You had someone comment on that photo, right? That person followed you already, right? Because they followed me because I went into a store down here to buy like a gimbal, like for my iPhone with like a microphone and all that sort of stuff. And the person that served me, they followed me on social media because they're like, oh, what are you using it for and stuff. So they're like, I'll give you a follow. They followed me, and then I saw their profile. And they follow like 500 people, and one of them was you. And there's this girl from down in Tasmania. And then I noticed she commented on your last photo as well. And I'm like, that's so crazy, considering you're on the other side of the world.
Small world.
So, yeah.
Small world.
Weird.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, that would be a mind F.
Yeah. Like, it's just,
you'd be like, is this a simulation or what's going on here?
I'm like, out of all people,
come on, looking around.
She follows you, and she's not even into bodybuilding or anything.
What if she's a plant? You thought of that?
Never know.
Never know. I would imagine.
You thought she was a waitress. She's not really. Just keeping tabs on you.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't make me paranoid, man. The world's crazy right now.
Yeah, especially in Australia. The more stuff I hear about Australia just from this podcast, I thought it was kind of happy-go-lucky over there. No, you guys are nuts, man.
It's crazy, man, because you obviously know my situation at the moment, the corruption that I've spoke about on that, and I wouldn't have even told you half of it. And it's just crazy when you go state to state and then you realize this stuff and you find out about more stories. Like there's so many in Australia where you dig into it a little bit and you're like, hold up, like what's going on here? And there's just so many inconsistencies, but it's even more so than some of the stuff in America. And it's even more obvious. It's just that we have like a population of like 20 something million. America has a population of hundreds of millions. And then you've got other people that are more interested in America as well. So people outside of America are going to look into more American politics and all that sort of stuff. But man, when it's a smaller population, it's crazy what governments and everything get away with. So yeah, I'm down on Australia at the moment. It's an awesome place, but yeah, the politics are like bad.
We got enough problems over here. What state do you live in, Kent?
I'm in Jersey. So
you're in Jersey?
You seen the drones?
Dude, I saw one over my house like last week. I saw two actually. They were like flying like a couple of degrees of separation. And they were silent. They were pretty massive. Like people aren't kidding. Like these are not your commercial drones. It's not some DJI drone flying over your house. Like these are some like military drones for sure. Because it was massive. It was silent. You could just see the lights. If I didn't see the lights, I would have never known something was flying right on top of me. Like it was pretty wild. But for me, I think that the government knows what they are. You know what I mean? Like my problem is not the drones themselves. It's why are they actually flying? So what is actually happening that we've got drones flying in New Jersey that no one's telling us? That's where I'm a little bit concerned, because if you're not telling us, that means that it's something pretty serious that could cause, like, mass panic or something. Maybe we've got nukes somewhere. I don't know. I gotta get out of here.
Man, I'm like at all places like Jersey right now. I'm like, oh, like I would even just feel nervous, because it's they're going to reveal apparently, once like Trump goes into office,
Yeah.
like what it is that they said about a day or so in, and it's like, I don't know, that could be crazy, and I feel like people are not talking about it that much, considering how crazy it sort of is. I'm like, is there just so much going on in the world that we're forgetting? Like,
well, I don't know how it is with YouTube, but I know that got people here that have been reporting it on YouTube and stuff. They've been taking down those videos. They've been taking out a lot of those videos about people reporting stuff with drones here. So I can understand why it seems like there's not much, but yeah, it seems like it's being taken down. So yeah, spin the narrative somehow. Who knows?
maybe we should stop talking about it then.
I know. Save Kens's channel.
Maybe
We've said DRONES too many times.
Yeah, you're right. It'll end up getting flagged. I'll end up having it taken down. Well, we'll
maybe
know
it's
when it
maybe
happens.
it's a full episode. You'd be in trouble. I think you're good.
It's no worse than doing a podcast with Lee, really. I mean, it always comes up at something below monetized anyway.
Yeah.
But
when Lee's
that's
on, I get the orange,
That's what I get. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Almost
that's what
every
I get.
time.
You had him on live. You had him on
I did.
live, and that was.
And guess what?
I was with you.
That got demonetized. Yeah, like straight away after.
It did, yeah, I figured
straight away.
Of course.
He said something crazy.
Him and Dylan
too.
Yeah, him and Dylan were going off. I mean, you were like sitting there trying to get back on track, and then at one point, Lee's like, "Hey, you can just go back and erase it or whatever," and you're like, "Lee, we're live." And he's like, "Oh
man,
okay."
Yeah, he forgot.
Yeah,
like,
you gotta,
the slightest hesitation from Lee Priest. That's actually probably hard to do, to just even give him a little shake. It's like, oh, really? Oh, okay. Shook him up a little bit.
He was in the park saying all this stuff, cursing and swearing, people walking by behind him.
He would have said the same thing. Yeah, doesn't matter.
Oh, it's just Lee Priest.
That's it.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Ken, I wanted to ask you about. Yeah, he is. Actually, I'm going to ask him about that when he comes. He's going to try and actually fit it in while he's over there to see if he can get in on a podcast. So if he does, we'll ask him about it. Yeah.
Sweet.
Ken, I wanted to ask you about what's coming up for you this year. Before I do that, you won North Americans in 2023. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so yeah. Tell me a little bit about where it's been from North Americans to leading up to now, where you're sitting around 280 pounds getting ready for your first pro show. What's it been like the past couple of years to get through that?
So, after North Americans, I won North Americans as heavyweight, 217 pounds on stage. When it comes to the pro league, right? Like, the natural path for any heavyweight that turns pros, you got to put on size. You can't compete. This is in the 90s. You can't compete in the open division as a heavyweight today. You have to be super, right? So for me, I knew that, I have the symmetry, I have the flow, but the size was what was missing. So Andrew Vu's my coach. So we set up a game plan that, we'll take the year, sit down the 2024 season, take the year and put on the size that we can, and then try to compete early into next year. So that's essentially what we did. I'll be honest, Kenton, I didn't expect to get to 280 pounds. It's been my first legitimate off season. Prior to that, like 2021, because I started like enhanced, like I went enhanced in 2021 essentially. And I did nationals in 22 right after that. And then 2023, I did North Americans to turn pro. So it hasn't been a very, very long time. So this was the first time that I had a chance to actually like sit down for a year and just like focus on adding size, and it wasn't easy. People always think that like all season is the best time, you just got to eat and train and lift heavy. But dude, once you start forcing food, man, it could get a little bit tough. So towards the summer, we had to pull back a little bit because I was getting a little bit tired, of the force feeding. So we pulled back. I had hit 285 at that point, so we pulled down to like 270s, and then we started to come right back up in November. And now, sitting here for a while, it's kind of like when I look at like where we are, the position of the starting point of this prep compared to North Americans, for example. I was 250 when I started North American prep, but I was a soft fat 250. Like there was just nothing going on. Compared to now, it's sort of like, man, I think that, I don't know how New York is going to go. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to win and they're top 10 Olympians in the lineup. I got to be realistic with myself, but I think I do have a shot to really, really come around with something that people are going to be surprised, because I'm a new pro. My name is not going to be on the scene, in terms of who can do something in the show, the dark horse, as they like to say. Like that's where I kind of have to come into this one. So I'm excited for it, man. I'm excited for this prep. And, I know there's a lot of people jumping into New York, and it kind of makes me more excited, to be quite honest. I want to stand next to these guys and kind of see. It's different when you see people on screen on a laptop versus when you stand next to them on stage. You know what I mean? Like you see people on Instagram and stuff like that. Even from a national standpoint, leading into shows, you see guys on Instagram, and you're like, damn, this guy looks insane. Like, I don't know if I could beat this guy. And you get to the show and it's like, oh, he's just like everyone else, So I kind of want to see these guys for myself in real life, like going against them and see what we're up against.
Well, a couple of heavy hitters we'll see at New York, no question. Michael Krizo planning on doing New York. We've got Regan Grimes, who has announced he'll be doing New York. Just to stand next to those two guys, known as some of the bigger guys in the sport. You mentioned maybe not being the dark horse pick going into the New York, but do you consider yourself the dark horse going into New York?
I really do, man. I'll be honest. I really do. I think, with bodybuilding, when you're standing on stage in a lineup, who you stand next to really matters. Like Regan is a 6-foot guy. Krizo's like 6'1". You put me in between them, maybe a bad day for me, right?
What's your height? How tall are you, Ken?
I'm the same height as Carlos. So I'm like 5'7", So, it's pretty hard to.
Good. You're Mr. Olympia height. That's good.
Let's not get any ideas. Let's not get any ideas, Kenson.
No. So
dude, it's actually
there's been many Olympians in around the 5'7" mark that were fantastic bodybuilders. Several, right? 5'7" is a very good height. Just tall enough to
Banu. I think Banu's at 5'7".
Right. Right.
Who was?
Samir Banu.
Samir.
Right? Yeah.
Samir?
Was Jay 5'7"?
Yeah, he's not tall.
Was Jay 5'7", 5'8"?
Jay's like 5'8".
Jay was
right?
about
Jay's like 5'8".
Yeah.
Dexter's
Phil Heath
about 5'6", 5'7".
Yeah.
Dexter's a little shorter.
Dexter's
even,
shorter.
really,
Phil,
I think.
Phil Heath as well. Yeah.
Phil's
5'8".
about
Phil's the same
5'8".
height as Jay. 5'8".
But they're all around that, you know what I mean? Like a lot of the champions are around that height. So you don't see.
There's been shorter and
Yeah.
there's been taller, but it's like 5'8", 5'8",
Yeah.
5'7".
Yeah.
You're right, though.
Like
Standing
Samson's
between
around
those
5'11",
two
6
guys. Yeah, he is. I think he said 6 foot when I was watching on his stories. But you're right, though, to stand between Krizo and Regan Grimes. I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, my show could literally end there. I'll be honest. Like it could literally end there. But
if you look good against those guys,
you're not in
look good against those
guys.
guys.
But like if you maybe like Martin's there. Let's say Nick is there. Tonio, I think Tonio's doing the Legion, so maybe he does it a week before. You put me next to those guys, I look a lot better, because they're around the same height. I'm just as wide, dense. So like I have a better shot because let's be honest, I'm a no name. You know what I mean? Like I'm just gonna get swept under the rug versus like you put me in a lineup where I'm a lot more comparable to the bodies right next to me. It gives me a better shot. So that's my hope. But I honestly I don't have any like grand expectations. I'm gonna win the show and everyone's gonna be so surprised. And I think first call outs is a big win as a new pro. You know, statistically, I mean, how
Absolutely.
many guys have really won their pro debut since 2021? Nick Walker, Andrew Jacked. Who else?
Walker didn't even win his pro
True,
debut.
true.
There's
He
his
didn't
second
even.
show,
Lost
technically,
to
yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah,
Yeah, he placed like 4th at the Chicago, or
yeah,
5th, 4th.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He did.
So
And
it's
Ken, if
like
I think
Yeah, I don't know. Not many won their pro debut. Andrew Jack won his pro debut,
Andrew
Yeah.
didn't he?
won. Yeah,
Yeah,
Texas.
he did.
Like
Yeah.
he said,
Texas.
Yeah.
Jack.
Yeah,
Crizzo did, but you know,
Not many.
I don't even.
Crizzo did.
He-
I don't. I
he
don't.
was
I don't
all
even
about it.
consider
Technically,
Crizzo.
well, he did still have to go through it. He did still have to qualify. Technically, he won his pro, but
It's like
that's where
it's
you.
like
What
going
was
from
it
the
for-
British Premier. It's like going from the MLS to the British Premier League. Like it's you're already a
Yeah,
pro
I know.
somewhere. You're just coming over.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you have
Yeah.
to scratch down that far to get to the technicalities to find individuals that have done it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it seems like you're more, to me it seems like you're more on the side of the goal being to place well, as opposed to some people have more of a consideration, I found, with their first pro debut. Well, you only get one pro debut, but to kind of just get it under your belt, right? No expectation, just go in and just go through the experience and take it from there. But with you, you're looking more for a top call out here. So
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
actually, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, Jensen, I didn't spend all year. I didn't spend 18 months to show up for just a great experience. Like let's be honest with ourselves. Bodybuilding is expensive. I'm taking time out, and money to do this. So if I'm gonna do this, it has to be worth something. That's just how I see it. It's got to be worth something. And I think like as a pro bodybuilder, not even as a pro, like a top national level bodybuilder, all the way into the pros, you've got to give yourself some kind of ultimatum in terms of these shows you're doing. Like if you're just doing it for the experience, you've lost the plot on what this whole thing is about. It's a competition. I'm not just trying to show up to be, to just be a number, or as Milos would say, a stage decoration, for the show.
Hmm.
So, New York first call outs is a reasonable option for me. Legions is where I really plan to take the ticket, as long as the current lineup of Legions, if the people from New York don't float in there that may potentially have a chance against me, or that's the wrong way to say it, may beat me at New York, then Legion is kind of the where I want to like seal the deal, essentially.
Dude,
You said
I
Tonio's
honestly,
doing Legion as well, right? So you think you could
Yeah.
beat Tonio?
Well, I think
Tonio,
I'm very
yeah.
comparable to Tonio. I'm thinking
Okay.
I'm very, very comparable to Tonio.
He did the Legion was his first show, I think. First open show.
Yeah.
Tonio's.
Yes.
Ken, honestly, man, I like I've seen your physique and I've seen like the way you've grown, and saying what you said, like that you started, you went enhanced in 2021. We've only just gone 2025. Like for people that, maybe haven't done that before as well, you realize like you continue to make gains in those early years of doing that. So it's like you're going to continue to make gains. Like I don't know how old are you now?
30.
You're young, so it's like you've got plenty more years to still improve. So it's like you're in a great position. You've got to, still got like a really tight waist and aesthetic physique, and that's what they're going for now more so. So it's like I feel like you're poised to really shock some people, and the fact that like I stack up, like when I assess like if someone's going to maybe do well in a show, I'm like, you seem like you got your head screwed on properly. Like you're working with Andrew Vu, which I think he always brings people in condition, which I think is like something where in your amateur career, it's like you brought great condition, but I feel like there's like another level like to go to like at the pro level. So if you can add the size plus bring the condition and, present yourself well, good stage presentation, all that sort of stuff with the aesthetics, it's like, that's a really good recipe for doing well, straight off the bat. And I think it's like the best move that you actually took 2024 out. For some people, I think without the mindset, having that long of a period of time, it can feel like, oh, I've got ages. But I feel like just even from what I saw on social media and talking to you, it's like sound like you locked in straight away, and then you pushed up, and then even like when you said you felt like when you're eating a lot of food, it's like your body gets to that sort of stress state, because it's like people don't realize someone with your amount of muscle eating that amount of food continuously, it takes a toll on your gut, takes a toll on everything. So pulling back is like the smartest thing. So I'm like, but the way you're tracking, I'm like, yeah, like I'm going to be predicting you probably higher than other people will, based off all of those factors, because some of these other guys, they may be getting to the point where they're burnt out because they've been doing show after show, contest season after contest season. So I don't think all these guys are going to come in great. And I think you've got the potential to beat some, top 10 Olympia caliber guys that maybe either not at their best or they don't improve, and then you're able to overtake them. And so honestly, like, that's my honest opinion. So it'll be represented in my predictions.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and like, Ken said, like I said, with Legion, it's no slight at Tony. I'm just saying, like, I'm very comparable, like it's more in my favor to be compared to Tonio than for me to be compared to, say, like Nick Walker or Martin, So if Tonio is the guy who's slated to win, right? He's a front runner for Legion. That's a better shot for me, So I always say with bodybuilding at this level, I call it strategic bodybuilding. I got to make sure it's for that, because at this level, you're not doing it for the experience. You're not doing it for Instagram. Like, you really have to pinpoint and plan your trajectory, because your career is finite. What's the average career lifespan of a pro bodybuilder? 10 years. You make it past 10 years, you're in the upper echelon of the sport. You know what I mean? Like, 10 years is typically the career lifeline of a pro bodybuilder. So
that's a long career too. That's a good bodybuilder.
Exactly. That's a really good bodybuilder. So you can't afford to make mistakes, because a mistake can set you back another year and another year and another year. Before you know it, like, 6 years have gone and you're still trying to figure things out. And, I don't want that for myself, so you got to be smart with it.
Yeah, you can't afford to shortchange yourself either. And I don't think that you're doing that by putting yourself where you think you are going to be in either lineup. I think you could compare with anyone, I think, that's currently announced in the New York Pro. I think that you can compare well with Tonio. In fact, you would have size on Tonio, I think. Even though he is bigger now, I still think that the size factor would be in your favor.
Yeah.
And I think that you have enough size to hang with guys like Nick Walker, Yeah, Regan Grimes, I think, for sure. Regan just hit 300, but when he dials in, I think that it's going to be very comparable. So this is going to be a very exciting pro debut. Some people may not remember the 2023 Nationals, but you turned a lot of heads back then. A lot of people were talking about you then.
Yeah, 2022 Nationals. Yeah, that was an interesting time.
Or so what about the 2022 Nationals? What was that?
No, it was just, there was a lot going on the back end of that show. I started working with Andrew right after that show, 2022 Nationals. So honestly, I went into that show just not really prepared. And I was surprised the amount of public response I got from it. People were so surprised, with kind of how I looked, and it was like, okay, that's when I was like, okay, maybe I do have something here, because something that happens with a lot of bodybuilders, and they probably won't tell you this to the audience watching, is there's always a level of imposter syndrome, with this. It's like, am I really good enough to be at this stage? I grew up watching, the Mitsuru videos with, Ronnie Coleman and the Battle of the Olympia in the 90s. And you look at these guys and you're like, I don't think I could ever be one of them. I don't think I could measure up to, they look like they're completely different people. They live a different life than I do. And you get to this point and you're turning pro and you still don't feel like you're there, so you feel like maybe I'm not really, maybe this whole thing, maybe people are going to discover I'm a fraud or something. You know what I mean? And
they'll see you on stage and be like, oh, that's why he sucks or something.
That's what I mean, right?
That's gonna happen.
Yeah. And then you get to the stage finally, because you always see yourself and people see you, and then the response is completely different than what you anticipated. And it's sort of like there's this like light bulb that goes up in your head, and it's like, okay, maybe I do really have something here to work with. And maybe I should put, all my eggs, don't put all your eggs, but like put a lot of effort into it, put a lot of effort into it and see where it goes. And that's 22 Nationals was that turning point for me, where it was kind of like, okay, I do have, because it was Milos was the one that commented, and he was like, dude, you have everything to be a top open pro. I was like, Milos knows who the fuck I am, like, you know. And that's when I was like, okay, you know what, this means a lot. Like, I gotta really put all my eggs into this, and that was a turning point. Honestly, 22 nationals was a turning point for me.
It's crazy, man. How like someone can like how your perception can change based off the reaction of others. Like it's from an outside perspective, I feel like sometimes like I'll message a bodybuilder if they get, you know, I feel like they get a bad deal in a show or something, be like, dude, don't give up. Like you're right there. It's just that the show was deep or whatever and you placed ninth. It's like, because I know, like I did a show once and this is my first time competing in like 4 years or something. And it was classic bodybuilding the year before it became classic physique here in Australia. And I had like 13, 14 guys in the lineup. I'm looking around and going, he's harder than me, he's bigger than me, or whatever. And then the first call out they did, and they called out 7 guys out of 13, and they didn't call me out. And I'm like, look down at myself. I'm like, I look like shit. Like I was just like, my confidence just went like, I'm like, I'm in the last 6 guys in this, or last 5 or whatever. I'm like, damn. And then because people were saying, oh, I reckon you'll win. I reckon you win before it. And then they realized they made a mistake and they put me into the middle of the first call out and I ended up winning in the end. But it's like, it's amazing how my mind just spiraled and how I thought, like, this is embarrassing. I want to get my bag and get the fuck out of here as soon as possible. Because, like, I'm embarrassed because everyone said, oh, I reckon you'll win. Or a bunch of people said, oh, I reckon you'll do well or whatever. And I'm like, I'm in the bottom few. Like, man, it messes with your head, like the placings. And then you hear one comment from one guy and be like, oh, I don't reckon he's got what it takes. Like, and that's why, like, I try to, with my opinions, try to not say like, hey, I reckon this guy's done or something like that. Even if it's like in the back of my head, it's going to be tough for this guy to come back.
Yeah.
I try not to say that because that can like, man, that can like beat someone down, you know, emotionally. Yeah. If they're just on that edge of doubting themselves.
To expand on that, Xavier, I didn't win 22 nationals, but that's kind of similar to what happened to me. Right. So I'm a new guy on the scene. I don't know what's going on. It's my first national show. I show up to Florida and, you know, the first call out comes out. I'm not in the first call. It's, shit, this trip is a waste. I just spent all this money to get here and I'm not in the first call out. Second call outs happens. I'm not in second call outs. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm looking at the third call out guys and I'm like, there is no way I'm with these guys. No way, you know, because I was a heavyweight and I was one of the biggest heavyweights in that show. I was like, there's no way. Third call out happens. I'm not in there. I'm like, did you guys just forget me at this show? Like, what's happening here? You know, so they do another round. Second call outs comes out. Then they call me. So it was like a 7-man call out for second call outs. They put me on one side. I do a front double. They switch me around to the second to the right, second to the last guy on this side. I do a back double. And that was my nationals 22. Literally, that was it. I hit 2 poses and that was it. So coming off the stage, I was like, you know, my girlfriend, she's right there at the steps, and I'm just like about to cry because I'm like, man, I must have come like third call outs. There's no freaking way. They probably were just like, oh, let's see if he fits. And then I ended up being 8th that show, you know. So it was kind of like, I just kind of felt like, man, like maybe they just forgot about me. And then I went online after that, and there's all this public response, and I'm like, but that wasn't what happened at the actual stage. You know, on the actual stage, I felt like I was forgotten, you know? So like you said, Xavier, it's just so different how that shift, you know, happens based on what people's perception of you, you know, tends to be.
Yeah. And dude, I was like that with leading up to the first time I did like men's physique because I wasn't even planning on competing. And I posted a few photos and everyone's like, oh, you could win and do well. And I'm like, am I gaslighting people? Am I like putting out photos that look too good of myself? And then I realized everyone puts up the photos that look good of themselves. And I ended up like winning my first show. And the response from the crowd, because I think I still wasn't sure of myself, but I think everyone knew I was going to win that show sort of easily. Like there's another dude that was way bigger than me, but he just looked like a bodybuilder in shorts, you know? So it was like, I didn't realize like until that moment. And then I won the overall there. And then people were like, oh, you might win your pro card. I'm like, I'm not a fraud. You know, I realized like, okay, I actually do legitimately look good. And then I can look at myself way more subjectively. And now I feel like I'm so much, if I competed again, I'd be so much more detached from the initial like reaction or judging placement or call out or whatever. I'd be like, just keep going, you know, and have that more sort of unbreakable mindset. And I sort of see the way Samson operates now and talking to him as well. Like like when I talk to Samson, most of the time it's not about bodybuilding, and he has a more relaxed mind with it, and like people can say what they want. He's like, I don't give a shit. But it used to be that it would affect him so much more. But now what people say, his placings. Like I think if Samson lost the Arnold, I don't think he'd be completely shaken. I think he'd just come back and be like pissed off and want to win the Olympia. You know, I don't think it would destroy him. Like I think it would destroy some others.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, Samson's is the playbook right now for how to handle the stress of the throne, if you will, right?
That's true. That's true.
He's doing a phenomenal job as a Mr. Olympia. I got to give my hats off to him. Samson's doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, it's been cool.
He is. You know, Ken, one thing that a lot of people may not realize is that you're still working full time as well, right?
Yeah, I do. I do. I work
Yeah.
full time. I'm a cyber engineer, so that's why I'm doing two shows. That's why I don't have the opportunity to run the circuit all year. I got PTO, guys. In America, we get
you guys get way less holidays than here in Australia. We get like an extra 2 weeks a year, I think, like literally.
That's insane.
Our minimum wages is higher too, but everything's expensive there.
Yeah, everything is
insane.
Do you find it?
I got like, go ahead.
The one thing with having the full-time job, of course, not you hear about guys that left their full-time job in the recent past, you know, like Beef Stew, who had he didn't really enjoy his job that much, so I don't think that it was a big deal for him. Although he had it for quite some time, from what I understood. But do you find it difficult, or do you think you'll find it difficult when it comes to not only growing your bodybuilding career, but also still wanting to grow this full-time job that you've made a career?
So it depends on where my bodybuilding career goes, right? How good of a bodybuilder and how lucrative that career is. Because let's not fool ourselves here, guys. We're talking about my full-time job, which is bodybuilding. Now we're talking about money, right? The financial aspect of bodybuilding. It has to make sense for me to justify leaving my full-time job. I say it this way: there's hundreds of thousands of cyber engineers in the world. There's only top 10 bodybuilders, right? I could be hundreds of thousands of one of these, or I could be one of the best in this aspect, right? But the money also has to make sense. The money and the security. What I mean by that is if I don't place top, if I don't win this show tomorrow, does the money stop coming in, right? So it has to be in a sense where financially it's been set up to a point where there is security, you know, because I'm 30, I'm in my 30s now. I want to have a family at some point, you know. You have bills to pay as well. These are things that you have to think about, you know. Bodybuilding is all well and dandy, but there's a life outside of bodybuilding too that still has to exist. You know, you don't want to finish your career. I think Sean Ray said it best, right? He did all these wonderful things in his career, and then when it was over, he was alone. There was nothing, right? There was no one there. There was nothing. And that's not what you want, you know, with your career. So for me, it kind of has to make sense. Obviously, if I'm given the chance to do bodybuilding full time and, you know, travel the world, meet people, and make a really, really good living off of it, I'll definitely choose it over my full-time career. But it doesn't really work out that way a lot of times, you know, for a lot of people. The people that are making a lot of money in the sport are usually the best of the best in the sport, you know. So I have to be realistic with myself in that sense. Because, you know, I went to college, I spent all these years acquiring this skill. You understand, Ken. So you're a business owner. You know, you spend all this time training and all this stuff to acquire a skill here. It's very hard to just give that up, you know, and just do something else. You know what I mean?
Well, let me ask you something. Do you enjoy what you do in cybersecurity?
I do. I do.
So
I
there
really,
it
really
is, right
do.
there. And
Yeah.
that's something that people may not understand as well. I mean, most people would hear, oh, you can be a full-time bodybuilder and make the money that would, you know, sustain you full time. But you have this cybersecurity job that you enjoy doing as well. I don't think people always appreciate that aspect. And it's actually something that I have recently learned after being on YouTube for a couple of years now. It would take, yeah, a substantial jump in my channel to consider, going full time compared to what I'm doing now in occupational diving. But the other thing is, my father started this company in 1991. I was born in 1987, so I've been around this my whole life. I've owned this company for 11 years now. It would not only take a lot of money for me to give it up, but it would be tough for me to even consider giving it up because it's what I've always done.
And it's kind of like your father's legacy too, when you think about it, in a sense of like your family, right? He kind of started the thing, you took it over. It's something that you can see your son taking over at some point. It's becoming a family thing. So there's that aspect to that for you, which can be quite
You know what?
difficult.
I got to be completely honest. There's actually not that much of that aspect.
Really?
When I took over the company from my father, one of the first things that I did was change the operating name of the company.
Wow.
It was within my first 4 weeks of owning the company. I changed the name of it because the name that we had at the time did not properly represent the services or even the expected services that we would provide at that point, because the company went from a recreational diving company to a commercial diving company, and the name that my father had was too much of a recreational
What was it?
association. It was called Scuba Tech, and I don't. It's not to make it too long of an explanation, but scuba didn't accurately define the diving that we were actually doing, being surface applied diving, which is not as commonly known about as scuba. In surface applied, you literally get your air source from the surface. Although you do wear a tank on your back as an emergency backup, it's not your primary air source. In scuba,
Oh,
being a
really?
self-contained, yeah, scuba is a self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. So you're breathing off of the tank on your back. Me,
Yeah.
I've got, thousands and thousands of PSI of air on the surface. But anyway, my point is with
I thought it was like a massive snorkel.
Self-contained underwater
Yeah,
breathing
it just sounds
apparatus.
like
no. But with the company itself, I changed the name so quickly because I knew it was best for the business, even though my father told me, he said, "You're taking 25 years of good business and you are flushing it down the toilet." I honestly I had to throw him out of my shop that day. I was like, I can't hear this. And we were in a hole in the wall shop. It was like a concrete box that was attached to a fish plant that we were able to rent at the time, and it had enough room for our boats and trailers. And I threw him out. I had dinner at his place that night, but at the time it had to happen. And for where we're at now, well, but now, even with my son, man, honestly, he can do what he wants. I don't care what he ends up doing as long as he does something, but I don't have an expectation because I had that expectation put on me. So I decided that it was not going to be an
Fair.
expectation. Yeah.
That makes sense.
But
That makes sense.
I get that.
but now at this point in my career as a diver, I couldn't give it up. And part of that is because of my father, a big part, for sure.
Yeah.
So in a roundabout way, perhaps you're probably right.
Yeah, I was going to say a little bit of that.
but it is important. So when it comes to the next step in your career as a bodybuilder as well, it's a extreme consideration.
Yeah, it's very, and the reason why I kind of brought that up too is I'm kind of first generation American. My parents immigrated here, and your parents sacrifice a lot, for you to have this life that they didn't have, essentially, right? So in my own head, mentally, it would be like I'm throwing away that sacrifice, right? To just say, I'm going to throw away my college degrees and all my experience and all this stuff and go full tilt into bodybuilding, and I'm not making a cent from it, or I'm not making a decent living from bodybuilding. Like, what would they say? How would they view that sacrifice? So there's that burden of, parenthood as well, on me, but at the same time too, being a little bit with a little more sense now at the world, they're kind of right? Like, you see it too often, like people, I'm going to be a bodybuilder, I'm going to be the next Chris Bumstead or the next Phil Heath. throw away their job. They got no health insurance. They got nothing. They go full tilt into it. They're grinding through the national ranks. They finally turn pro and they're second and third call outs. And they spent 7 and 8 years just doing this whole charade. And now you got to get back in the workforce. You're 38, 39 years old. You've got no skills. You've got nothing. And you're starting from the beginning when everyone else is pretty much moved on, right? So it has to make sense for me to make that jump essentially into like full-time bodybuilding. And I, Kenton, I really hope I have that opportunity, right, to actually do that. Like, let's say, fictitious example, I win New York Pro, maybe I win, I go to Legion, you know, I win that as well. Now I got 50,000 in my bank account. I got extra, you know, animals like, oh, we're gonna throw you some extra bonus for those wins, you know, and things are looking good. It may be a consideration at that point, you know what I mean? Like maybe YouTube is going well at that point. Start a little business on the side. People that support me are supporting that. So now I'm bringing in multiple streams of income too. Then it could be something where I'll say, okay, maybe I'll switch to a more of a contractor role. You know, I'm not doing this full time anymore. I'm doing it on a contract basis, and then see how I can ease my way full time into bodybuilding at some point. You know,
So smart, man. That's so smart. Because and I was actually thinking while he's talking about that, like how I think some people have different mentalities. Like you're obviously extremely calculated and very, very smart. Like I'd say you'll probably talk the smartest about how you plan to do things. And, you know, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Then I feel like there's some guys where almost they need to push themselves. They need to put themselves in that tough situation sometimes, which obviously I don't think is a smart thing. And if it was like I was advising my kid, I wouldn't be saying, yeah, go all in on this, regardless of if it's bodybuilding or whatever industry, and quit their job. But at the same time, I feel like some people, like, for example, just like throwing someone's name out there, Aaron Singman. I almost feel like if I know he's going to have all his money taken off him, he will find some way to make money. Like I just almost know. And I feel like him pushing himself into uncomfortable situations and being very like risk inverse, I guess. Or yeah, like it just, you know, he's going to make money. You just know he's going to make money. It's just regardless of, you know, whatever situation he's put in. I just don't feel like someone like that, maybe they're more comfortable being put in an uncomfortable situation. And even like to myself, like I know I'll operate more functionally and just like smash whatever I need to do if I'm in a, you know, do or die situation, which is not healthy, I don't think. But it's, yeah, there's like, I know there's different people like that, but I admire what you're able to do and be so calculated and be able to like make the right decision for your career and continue to, it's not like you're going half-assed in this as well. So it's cool.
Yeah, because the problem with bodybuilding too, compared to those examples, and I completely agree with you, but the problem with bodybuilding is it's a physical thing. You know what I mean? Like it's physical. Like some guy off the street, I don't care how much you train and how much gear you take, you're not beating Andrew Jacked. It's not happening. You can train all you want. You're not beating him. You know what I mean? So it's like there's this thing where as you start to get into the upper echelons of the sport, you realize that you can train as hard as you want. You can, you know, do the necessary protocols and all that stuff, but there are genetic ceilings as well as to how far you can actually go. And people don't like to talk about that a lot, but because, you know, there's this mindset that, you know, whatever you set your mind to, you can do it, but it's unrealistic sometimes. You know, a guy like Andrew Jack is very rare, and I keep using him because, you know, this is a guy that's not even fully filled out his frame. He's, if we're gonna put a percentage, he's like what, 75%, you know, and he's already top 5 at the Olympia. Like, can you imagine a guy who's been struggling through the ranks? You're not beating him. I'm sorry, like it's not happening, you know. So you have to take those things into consideration. Like, where is your limit? And as a pro in bodybuilding, you have to kind of find where that limit is. Your limit could be a guy who makes it to the Olympia every single year. You make top 10, but you're never going to be in that top 5 bracket. Or you could be a guy that wins a small show here and there, or you could be a guy that never wins a show. It's also the reality of many pros. So you have to find where that limit is and then plan accordingly. That's just how I see it.
Pretty sure Andrew still works in his chosen profession as well as an engineer. Does he not?
He's an electrical. I think he's on a contract basis now. I think from the last time that we
Okay.
spoke about it. So I think he does like contracts now. So certain seasons he doesn't work, and certain seasons he works and stuff like that.
Well, it's smart actually to do that because you can kind of pick and choose, when you want to work on projects and when you don't, and you still stay in the industry. So that's actually really smart.
But see, that worries me too, because I don't know I don't know his financials, but he's got 1 million subscribers on Instagram, and his YouTube is doing very well. He's making prize money, and he still has to keep that job. What is that telling me?
He's probably got a cushy setup or something, man. I bet. I bet he's got some sort of setup where it's like he's like, I have to work, Andrew is the biggest engineer in bodybuilding. I love him, man.
Hey, maybe he enjoys what he does at the level that he does it now, right? And he doesn't want to give it up, right?
Probably.
It's not because he needs the money. It must be because he wants to. Or, like you said, Ken, thinking about life after bodybuilding, right?
Yeah. His escape plan.
Exactly. Without a doubt, he'll be able to continue to make money in the industry through coaching. I know he's launched coaching recently, things like that. But still, on a contract basis for an for engineering like that, especially if he's doing private consulting, you're talking hundreds an hour potentially, right? So that's hard to give up as well. But it probably a combination of those things. That'd be an interesting guy for you to stand next to.
I don't want to say I say it, not yet.
That'd be a tough pro debut. That'd be a tough pro debut.
I wouldn't want to say it next to
we saw Jordan Hutchinson and Nate Epler get that treatment at Texas, man. Like those guys are awesome.
Man.
And I still was like,
that was not right. That was just not right, man.
That was also the best version of
crazy.
Andrew Jacked. No, that was the best. So. Mark, that was the best version of Andrew that ever stepped on stage.
Yeah, Hutchison was pretty conditioned, though, I will say. Even next to
he got a lot harder in that second show, I think. Yeah, the first one as well. Yeah. Like he just
nobody had any expectations of him winning.
Yeah,
it was Hutchison and who else?
Epler.
Yeah.
Epler. Okay, yeah, Epler was pretty.
Epler's one of those guys that he won't look huge in the gym, but when he gets on stage, he just transforms, man. Like I think that if
he's classic, right?
No, he's open.
No, but he's
212.
I thought he was.
He got
or 212. Sorry,
he got fourth at the 212 Olympia, and I'm like, and he's a taller dude. I just think that if he can get really big, like looking really big off stage, I think on stage he's just gonna look crazy. I think he's actually got a pretty high ceiling.
Because I was gonna ask you that because I really like Nathan Epler's physique, man. It's very clean, very very detailed, very symmetrical, and it wasn't the Texas Pro. Was it the Tampa? Was it the Tampa Pro, the second one he did?
Yeah.
I thought he had a shoe in to win.
Chicago?
Was it Chicago where it was Vlad?
Maybe.
Vlad was there. It was
Vlad
I
think so. Yeah.
It was.
And I was like, man, I had him to win, but I guess the size is just too apparent for them to give it to him because I don't know. I just kind of feel like his physique he's got everything. I really like his physique. He's got everything. So I don't know where he goes from there because I don't know if it's a problem of putting the size on, but I mean, let's think about it. Like my worry is always like when you push people to put on size, maybe the physique just doesn't look the way it used to when they were lighter,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm a huge fan of Nathan Epler, huge fan.
Yeah, I hope he just steadily adds the mass, you know what I mean? Doesn't try to add it all in 1 year and go, okay, they say I need size, okay, I'll give them size. And sometimes that's, you can't come back sometimes.
Refinement.
Can't.
He's posting on YouTube.
Yeah, refinement.
Yeah, periodically he's posting. He is doing an off season. It looks like he's putting on size. I'll have to watch some of it because, he does have potential to move up. I think he does.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Sort of like just one of those guys that sort of goes under the radar at the moment, but he's added size, I'd say, pretty consistently. I don't know if he had an injury or something at some point, but he seems pretty locked in now, so it's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is Lewis Breed. Lewis Breed's another guy. He's consistently been getting a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he continues.
Sure.
Yeah,
Do we know
I
what
think
show
he will
Lewis
too.
is doing? Do we know what show Lewis is doing this year? He looks like he's already in shape. I don't know if it's old pictures or.
I thought he was shutting it down for the year.
I'm
Maybe
not
he
sure.
is.
Maybe not. Maybe he is doing one more.
He looked in shape. I mean, I don't know if they're old pictures that he's been posting, but he looks pretty good.
Is he doing? He's not.
No, I think.
What's the next show?
Arnold and
Detroit's
Detroit is the
doing a show.
next, unless it's an international. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's posting old pictures. I think he's posting.
I
Old
thought
pictures.
he said he was shutting it down for the
Got
year.
me
Yeah.
bamboozled. God damn it, Lewis.
That happens a
Oh, well,
lot.
you won't have
Like
to worry about him.
James Hollingshead posts a few old ones as well. Like
Yeah.
while he's
Yeah,
prepping.
he
did today.
James just posted an old one.
That's what I saw.
He said that it was old.
Yeah, I know.
He said
At first I
that it was
went, whoa, he's
He's-
ready. No.
He looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked
His
real good.
look leading into that British Grand Prix that he did, and then he did the Europa after, I think.
He did the Europa before.
Before, yeah. That
And then he did the
that look
British.
was like crazy. It was almost like he had a bit of a bursting look where it was like, but he still had the detail, like
Yeah.
in that side leg, he had the deep cut in the
Yeah.
side and everything. That was if
Yeah.
he can get the combination of a little bit extra added size plus that sort of look, then I think he's gonna do real well. I hope.
Yeah, he was heck on wheels there.
Mm.
Hey, we're getting very close to being able to do our Arnold Classic predictions as well. Usually around 6 to 4 weeks out, I like to do them.
What are we now? 6.5?
We're like, yes.
It's in March.
Yeah, it's in March. So we're at 7 weeks now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, six
I got
six
this
and a half,
huge
basically.
calendar of the year.
6.5 in
I got a big
Australia.
year calendar with all
Yeah,
the
it's Monday
shows on it.
today.
Nice. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah. 6.5 in Australia. I know he's living in the future every episode.
You sent me a message saying good morning last night, my time, right before I was going to sleep.
That- Whatever, man. I don't always get it right. I got a lot of time zones to deal with.
Probably underwater.
You gave me an extra day
it'll
the
be
other day.
tomorrow.
You said, oh, we're recording. One of them, you said we're recording Sunday. You said Tuesday morning your time. I'm like, that doesn't work. I'm not 2 days ahead.
I get it right most of the time. You were
Yeah,
here
you
first
do.
today,
You
so I
do.
got it right this time for sure.
Yep. Yeah, you got the time right.
I've actually been getting a little bit of a hard time about my opinion of Carlos Thomas Jr. pushing for a top 3 spot at the Arnold. A lot of people
What's
in my
your opinion?
comments have been, I think that he has the chance to do it if he does come in correct. I think he has the chance to push somebody up. Like beating Andrew, no. Beating Derek, I don't know. I mean, beating Samson, obviously, no. But Derek, if Derek isn't on, I mean, and Carlos really is, you go shot for shot, he can push him.
Derek's a very
That's an uphill
Derek's
battle.
a very good bodybuilder, but
Do you know what you're
that's-
saying, Kenzie?
Yeah.
Kenzie, you're
Yeah.
saying, you're literally saying
Yeah.
Carlos could be Mr. Olympia 2023.
Not
You
from
know
the
what you're
back.
saying?
It's gonna be
Not from the back.
Derek's
It's gonna
going
be a lot from
underrated.
the condition difference from behind is going to be. Carlos needs to get more peeled. I love his physique though.
Carlos is definitely
Derek
I know what you're.
now look,
Definitely gonna be somewhere up
Derek
there,
has an Derek has an X factor working with Chris Aceto this round. Okay, I watched Derek get visibly nervous on the Mutant and the Moth podcast when Chris was a guy was telling the story about when he was competing up in Canada. So I think he was in Toronto. And Guy told Chris, he said, the only way that I'm doing it is if you're there. And Chris was like, oh, yeah, I'll be there. And he didn't show up. Okay. Now, Guy won the show, but it was like Derek was like, is this the kind of individual like I'm going to deal with here? Right. I'm telling
But
you, I
why
watched
didn't
him get
Aceto show
visibly
up?
nervous. Oh, because he outright lied to Guy. Now, in his words, he bent the truth or something.
Yeah, I think he said he already knew Guy was going to win, so he didn't need him to be there or something like that. That was what he
Yeah.
ended up saying.
Obviously,
But-
no. I mean, Chris is going to be there, obviously, but it's their first round working together. So I don't know. Maybe Derek needs some rest too, right? I do have that kind of faith. Carlos is, if he really shows up correct, like I think he's gonna, man, it's going to be a push shot for shot.
See, listen, Carlos is my boy. You know, we train together sometimes. We're friends. So I'm not saying this in any kind of way, but man, when you say someone is going to, I feel like there's certain aspects, right? So Derek, Hadi, Samson. Those three, it's a separate tier. That's how I see it. It's a separate tier. So when you put Carlos in that tier, you're saying a lot, Kenson. That's a lot. Because
Okay.
Derek has arguably he's got the best back double in the IFBB right now from the back. He's really good. So Carlos would have to really overpower him from the front and have enough from the back to at least hang where the judges can say, okay, he's not smoking him. He's still comparable for him to be able to win and in condition. Because when you take it shot for shot, right? Like front double, front lat spread, Carlos could win. Most muscular, Carlos could win. Side chest, I would give it to Carlos if he's in condition. Side try, yeah, you're onto something here. Now I'm doing shot for shot. Side try, but back double and back
No
lat
way.
spread. That's where, yeah. But he's got to be peeled though, because Derek comes peeled. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's going to be the
But
difference.
Carlos
And-
was we've seen him peeled. But we haven't seen him this big. So if he gets as peeled as he was when he won his pro card and has
Oh, at the Nationals?
He'd need to be more peeled.
Yeah.
He'd need to be more peeled.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's peeled.
Yeah.
he was pretty good, man. You could see that he had it.
If you look at this is no discredit to Carlos whatsoever, but if you look at say like Derek Lunsford from the Olympia just gone conditioning wise compared to Carlos at the Nationals win, there's some photos with a little bit of editing on the top, not from Carlos, I'm saying from photographers that post them, that you can see it's a little bit more that grain on there. But Carlos was in good condition there, so if you can bring that plus another notch, I think like Ken probably agrees, then that's going to be sort of the optimal look for him, so he can bring in enough back and everything. But you think about how complete Derek is from the back. And those shots, the glutes are in, the hams are in, the back is so complete from top to bottom. And Carlos, I think that he's going to improve his back, no doubt. And I think he improved his back at Texas. We just didn't see the level of conditioning we probably need. But if he can bring, that combination, I think he can be up there. But I just can't see a world where he can beat Derek yet, just because I think Derek's back will be too far advanced. And I just don't think Derek's going to miss it enough from the front. But you never know. Derek could get food poisoning and shit the bed, but I doubt it,
No. Shows are not won from the back exclusively anymore. Derek has one of the best back doubles in the world. Carlos won't beat him from the back. But Ken, you just went shot for shot, and it's not that far-fetched. It's not that far-fetched.
Kenson, that's if Carlos is lights out peeled. That's
absolutely.
I
agree.
100%. If he's lights out peeled, then that analysis I made would work. But so far, just the previous shows which we've seen, it won't be enough. It won't be enough to overcome Derek. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll be doing predictions soon. We'll see.
What do you guys,
I was right about next.
What do you guys?
Between those two.
What do you guys have for? What do you guys thoughts for Brandon Curry in the Arnold?
It's so tough, man. It's so tough there's so many guys that from that fourth to nearly last, it's like a clog of guys that are all really, really good that just aren't quite maybe at the top three level. And it's so hard to judge, man. I thought Brandon looked better than I expected at the Olympia because, from what I heard from Abdullah saying he wasn't big enough, so he didn't work with him. Sort of, that's what it sounded like he was saying in a lot of things. And he wasn't sort of ready at that stage, but he pulled it together pretty damn well. What do you think, Ken?
So I'm going to ask you a next question after that, if you can help. So Brandon at the Olympia, where he came tonight, do you think Brandon got worse or the competition got better? What do you think?
I'd say more of the competition got better in general.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was that much worse from last year. I think that I'm expecting better from Brandon at this Arnold because it's not like he's starting from a smaller point, when he probably started prepping for that Olympia at 12, 14 weeks out or whatever, I don't think he would have looked near what he looked like on stage. Now he's got a shorter gap between shows. I think it's going to actually work to his advantage. So I think we'll see a better Brandon, but at the same time, he's prepping from home Like, does that affect things? Who knows? I have no clue. But he's working with Justin Harris, I believe, who's, from what I understand, a pretty good coach.
He's
so
good. He's good. Justin's good.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I asked you because I don't have the answer to the question. I'm just looking to see what you guys' thoughts are. Because everyone I asked, everyone's just silent. You know, no one has a different answer.
And that's fair. That's fair out of respect to Brandon. I think Brandon is going to look good. I don't think that Brandon has ever showed up not looking good. We've seen him at some shows better than others. For placings at this show, like you said, this is a tough lineup. And Brandon is we haven't seen improvements, I don't think, from Brandon, substantial improvements in maybe quite some time. He was good last year. Year before. Last year was sick. But I could see him pushing for 5th, 6th, 7th spot, somewhere around there. I think it's fair to say for Brandon to the show.
It's just so hard, man. You got Akeem, right? Who I think at the Olympia finals beat a whole ton of guys, including like William Bonac, who was in 7th.
Yeah.
So you've got a guy like that.
He beat Brandon in the finals.
Yeah. So that's crazy. So it's it seems like Akeem always comes in at like 9th at prejudging and then 5th at finals. Like, he jumps so many spots. Like, it happened to be Arnold. It happened to be Olympia. Like, I don't think he was that bad. I think some of those cases he was just slightly overlooked. I think it even maybe happened at the Arnold UK or something as well, where he got better at finals. So I don't know what the deal is with that. I think it's probably more a judging thing than how he looks. But I think at one of those shows he definitely looked better at finals. But
yeah, it was the Ohio.
Yeah, and then you've got John De La Rosa, who I think was 4th at last year's Arnold, who no one's talking about, and he definitely deserves respect because he improved so much from the year prior. And then you got like I said, James Hollingshead before.
Hollingshead.
Yeah. I think that he could bring something good. And he was 5th last year, so I think the competition.
And Clarita.
I feel like Clarita, no matter what, he's not going to beat Clarita. He's not going to be below a certain point because some guys are not going to come in 100%, and Clarita always pretty much hits it on the head. And
Clarita
looks so good working.
Heck on wheels at the Frog, man.
He did
like real good.
Does it in this world? Does Brandon Curry lose to Sean Clarita?
I think
so.
Hey, Big Ramy.
You got Bonac.
Big Ramy had a pretty serious, the Arnold, the last one with Big Ramy was close. He finished right after Big Ramy, so it's right there.
Yeah, and then Bonac, he beat Bonac, or was Akeem? Did Akeem beat Bonac there? I think Akeem even beat Bonac at that Arnold.
But yeah, Bonac is coming back.
Curry's going to be.
Well,
well, that's just it. Curry's in for an uphill battle.
That's one of the advantages of the Arnold. It is a tough show, but that's one of the nice things about shows that have this many competitors is that you can find something pretty exciting from 1st right down to 12th. It is 12 in this show, I do believe.
Yeah, I think so. I'm glad no one's dropped out yet.
Mistaken.
And I hope no one drops out because I feel like below 12 in a show, I prefer to have 15, and then if 2 or 3 drop out, then we're at like 13 or 12. I like that.
Yeah, there's 12. There's 12.
It's a good
number. In the future, they invite like 15.
You got, Justin Rodriguez also doing the show.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
I just think in this lineup, it's a tough one for him. But I mean, what he brought a few years.
Well, this is the lineup that he's gonna do okay because everybody's gonna put him last, and I think he will look okay.
I just wish Justin.
I think he will too.
I just wish Justin will come online and kind of give his side of the story. I just feel like we all speculate, in terms of just the last 3 years, right, of what has happened with him in terms of the coaching and then the different looks. It's like no one really knows. I just wish sometimes, and that's something between the old school and new school bodybuilders that I feel like needs to change. I feel like some of the guys that are still around from the previous era, they need to employ that because I think it'll really give people a little bit more insight to what's really going on with Justin. Because I have no idea. He's in New Jersey here. He's in Jersey. He's in North Jersey. But even myself, I have no freaking clue as to what's really going on, with his camp. So,
and reporting is on YouTube as well. You just sort of go okay, who's he tagging in his latest post for a coach? Yeah. You know what I mean? Okay, he must be working with this guy now. Okay, I mean, we just speculate on what, the latest
See,
update plus what coach he's
Oh,
working with, and
well,
we just have to make up our own narrative.
he's back with Jacoby,
I
right?
yeah, he's working with Jacoby. I was talking to Jacoby. Yeah, he's
Oh, is
back
he?
working with
Yeah,
Justin. Yeah, the
yeah.
day they started working together
That's good.
again, which was just a few weeks ago, I messaged Justin on that day. And I was like, "Hey man, are you working with?" And he was like, "Yeah, actually I am. We just started today." It was funny. I think that's
Hmm.
a good pick for Justin. You know, Justin Jacoby's worked with him before, so he has an understanding of how he's going to respond. And aside from AJ Sims, I think it's the best guy to bring him in.
Yeah. I think he'll jump into New York as well. His hometown. So
Yeah.
he's
He's
probably
no
gonna jump
stranger
to
to
New
New
Yeah, he
York.
York
loves
Pro.
the New
Yep.
York Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves that show.
Yeah. Yeah. I was always a fan of Justin. Mark, you always like Justin too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. That back lat spread
He
is
did good at
deadly.
the 2020 Olympia. I think he did
That
real
was his
well.
best, I think.
Yeah, should have beat Dexter. Maybe.
He was
But
good in
see,
that
Justin
that's
was
what I
show.
was
huge then.
that's what that's what I was saying earlier about when you talk about like decisions that you make, how it could cost you like a year here, a year there. Like I feel like since AJ Sims, it's
Hmm.
kind of been like up and down with Justin, we
Yeah.
just don't know what to expect. So it's important. Hopefully he nails it this time. Hope so.
Yeah, we'll
Sure.
see. Patrick Moore's the other one that I was seeing an update from earlier today.
He's doing the show.
How
Yeah,
did he look
he
in the
is.
update?
Yeah. Um, I think that he hasn't put the size on to really make a significant impact into this show. Back working with Chris Aceto, so I think that he could be better, in the future. But for this one, I think it's going to be what we might expect from Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same old.
Yeah, yeah. And I was always a fan of his physique. He just never put the size on, especially in the legs, to really, make it back into that area he was when he took top 10 at the 2019 Olympia.
His
But that
biggest was the show that he qualified at, like the Cali Pro. He was a fuller version of the
Cali
Olympia
Pro
then.
right
yeah.
before
If
that.
you
Yeah.
could pull something off like between the Cali and the Olympia that he brought with like maybe a little bit more size, if he can get in a solid off season. But he's getting older now, right? Like he looks young,
Yeah,
but
he
Yeah, he was
is.
he was a 36. He was 36 then, I think.
Yeah.
so
That was 5.
Yeah.
He's got to be
yeah,
40.
40 here.
Super clean physique though, right? Like super clean. I was always a fan of Patrick. I really like his physique.
Yeah.
He just doesn't I actually think he should go to classic personally. No matter what he has to
Too
strip off
heavy.
for muscle, whatever he has to
He's
strip
just not
off.
that
No, it's too
tall.
heavy. He's too heavy.
Yeah,
He can't make the weight.
Yeah, he's not that tall. I think people think he's taller than he is.
yeah.
No, I
His weight
still
would be
Way too heavy.
crazy.
And
but
trust me, once
but
you start to
he's
strip that off, he's not going to look the same. It's not going to be the same guy. He's very
Yeah,
wide
we
No.
saw
too.
Regan
He's got a
cry.
wide frame.
Yeah, he needs everything he has, I think, to look
Yeah.
that
It's
way.
funny that the width is like in some ways it's a total disadvantage in classic because it's obviously you're adding more weight, sort of like
Yeah.
the wider your frame is.
Perfect.
So some guys I know just can't get into that class. Like for myself, it's like actually perfect because I've like tiny little ectomorph freaking joints and stuff like that. My shoulders aren't that wide, but my shoulders cap. So it's like for me, it's sort of the perfect class, apart from I've got fucked back and I can't train legs properly. But it's like in terms of weight, height to weight, it was one of those
Yeah.
things where everyone's like, you only weigh that? Like, what the like my weight
wider-
is super low, like well below
wider
the
you
classic
are,
limit.
Yeah, the wider you are, the more muscle you need to make that physique look somewhat decent.
Yeah.
With Patrick, like you said, I mean, I just think everyone's been saying it for years. I'm just not sure why he hasn't taken that advice. Just see what 1 year of an off season, just see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, just see what happens. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think at this point, like I said before, you as a pro, what is the goal when you compete? What is that goal for you? Xavier, you said before too, when I asked you about Brandon, about has the competition gotten better, and you said the competition's gotten better. The ninth place that Patrick got at that Olympia today, I'm not so sure he would be ninth place with the current lineup, even with his prime physique, the peak prime physique. So that means that he's gotta just size up, to still stay competitive with the league right now. So I'm not sure why he hasn't taken that year. I'm not a close friend or anything like that. Maybe there's a reason that we don't know, but it just baffles me.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, definitely. Like, who knows? He might have had personal life stuff you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I'm like, I think as a fan as well, because when you see it from the outside, you don't have too much interaction. It's frustrating, and fans get frustrated and they get pissed off, and then they say crazy stuff like Patrick sucks or something like that. Where he doesn't suck, obviously. Like he's
Or
still
he
in
should
the
go to
past couple of years won
Classic.
pro shows.
Or he should go to Classic.
You've got some words about that. Think
That's a
about
hard
this,
burn.
okay? No, it's
He
not.
wouldn't make
though.
it.
Think
Trust me.
about it. Think.
He's like 50 pounds over or something, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not
Okay.
making Classic.
He's quite a bit.
He's like
quite a
what,
bit.
240 on stage? There's no way. He's not making Classic. No chance.
Yeah, and he's not that tall.
Yeah, he has to be
He's
190
got
or
a
something.
short torso. He's got long legs and a short torso.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got
How's
that.
the open? Okay. How's the open working out for him?
He won a pro show a couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago.
I don't think he'd win a pro show in Classic. I think his physique
gonna be
would
harder.
He made it to the
emaciated.
Olympia a few times. He was at a few Olympias.
It's gonna be harder in Classic.
It's been a while. I think that he could do it. You know, at this point, you know, he's like you said, he's over 40. He could strip off some muscle, come down. If he keeps the size in the arms and can downsize, I'd say in the shoulder and the back, especially, right? I think that he could look proportional and still have those classic lines. And I think he can make a push for it. Now, look, if he's 50 pounds over, then I might be way, way off here. That might be a different story.
Yeah.
But at this point in his career, I mean, if he thinks that he can do it, what does he have to lose? I looked at Stefan Matala. Remember, Stefan Matala went from Classic right up to Open. I never thought he would make it to Open because the amount of size that he had to put on was astronomical. So, kind of a reverse of that. Maybe he could do it and look decent. I don't know.
But it's like we said, Stefan is not very wide from the clavicles, right? And like Patrick is what, Breon's height, so he'd have to be like maybe 180 on stage. Is that
Online here? It
that
says
correct?
on Generation 9 it says 5'11", but there's no way he's 5'11".
Nah, no way he's 5. He's like
No,
5'9".
he's not
He's
5'11".
like 5'9".
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, he's not as tall as people thought he was.
So he's got to be like maybe like Breon's height to like 180 on stage. So 240 to 180, 240 stage weight. That's not the same guy anymore,
yeah.
Kenson. That's not the same guy.
Maybe not. Maybe not. You got to
have a long neck, so that way you can have less of a body to fill out. Like Mechaneck from He-Man. His neck would go up.
Maybe.
Mechaneck could have been classic champion.
I don't think he'll do it. I don't think he'll do it regardless. I don't see him doing it. He might have another. This could be another season, maybe two. But you know, hopefully he shows up and brings that conditioning factor. Anyway, I'd love to just see that from him.
Yeah,
he's always at the Arnold. He always gets invited to the Arnold.
Yeah, I love him there.
That's how does that work? Because aren't you supposed to win a pro show? Did he win a show last year?
Invite only. Invite only.
That's part of the criteria, though, because Carlos was kind of
to make it to the Olympia or the Arnold. No, it's just invite only.
No, but they were saying to guys like part of their criteria and the way they look it up. I spoke to Brian Powers about it. He said, you know, we have a list of criteria, you know, like want a pro show, helps if you're an international athlete, like, you know, there's certain things. But yeah, like that was to me like a little bit of a I feel like there's other guys that may have
Morgan Asti got invited to the Arnold one year, and he never won.
But that was did he win the Arnold? Did he win the Arnold Amateur though? He won the Arnold Amateur.
Maybe that's why. They always invite that guy.
Yeah.
There was a guy last year that invited.
Hey, where's that guy this year?
He's having a baby, I think.
What's his name?
Romo something. Something. Yeah, we talked about that too earlier. We were like, one of the things we talked about on our previous podcast too was like, if you're an amateur guy that won the Amateur Classic, Arnold Amateur Classic, would you compete in the Arnold Classic this year? And I said no. I don't think that's a good idea. You know, it was a topic of conversation, so I want to know what you guys' thoughts are. If you won the Arnold Classic, but Arnold Amateur in 2024, and they sent you an invite to compete this year in the Arnold Classic, would you take it?
If you're Morgan Asti, you would, because that might be your only chance to get there. You know what I mean? But if you're Kennedy, I would be like, I'm getting back there anyway. You know what I mean? It changes. Yeah, I would probably sit it if I were you and I won it. Like, you know, in 2023, I would have probably sat it out the following year
Yeah.
and then used that as motivation. Like, I'll get there in 2020, whatever.
It messed you up, because I
2025 or whatever.
remember with Cody Montgomery, I know he didn't take that loss very well, when he did it, the Arnold Classic. As a new pro, like, you got to set your expectations. You got to be realistic with your expectations. Like, the only place for you in the Arnold Classic is last. Like, if I took the Arnold Classic, I think I'm coming last. It's like, you got to be realistic.
Well,
Close to last. I'm not in the top call outs anyway. So if you're not in the top call outs, you're last. So you gotta be realistic with that. So yeah, I think the Romo guy, I forget his name. I'm sorry, dude. But I think he was having a baby. His wife got pregnant when he was prepping for it. So that's why he pulled out. So I don't think he's competing.
He
this
didn't
year
pull out,
either.
actually.
Not this
yeah.
time. There was hold on. It wasn't just Patrick Moore. It wasn't just Justin Rodriguez. There's somebody that I'm leaving out here. We talked about Clarita. Who we leaving out? We talked about Akeem. There was still somebody.
James
No, I
Hollingshead.
mentioned James.
Yeah.
There's someone else, isn't there? There's someone else.
Yeah.
We mentioned
I don't wanna
John
leave
Del
anyone
I
Rosa.
got the list right here. Bonac, Clarita, Curry, Sampson, De La Rosa, Hollingshead, Andrew Jack, Lunsford, Patrick Moore,
Oh,
Rodriguez, Carlos, and Akeem.
okay.
Akeem, we never really talked about.
Yeah,
Well, we
briefly
kind of
mentioned him.
brushed over Bonac. We kind of brushed over Bonac too, and Bonac is looking fantastic.
Yeah, he is.
He's looking
Yeah.
dialed in.
Did he cut his hair off, or was that just a fake picture?
But
Cut
he
his
said
hair?
it.
Picture.
I seen a picture one day, and Bonac looked like he was bald.
That's a
No
fake
way.
picture.
That's definitely
No.
fake.
Is that okay?
Definitely fake.
Okay, good.
No.
I want to see this picture though.
But
Speaking of what we were talking about earlier, when we were talking about before we started recording, that's another one. You would have known, right?
What were we talking about? That's too
We
long ago,
talked
bro.
about like Ron Harris. It was all good, Ron Harris. I promise if you're
Yeah.
watching this. Like when we talked about with Ron Harris, it's as we were talking about like the hair transplants.
oh yeah.
Like the technology's so good. Bonac did it as well. I think like 2 or 3 years ago, but
Oh.
you wouldn't actually know that he did it.
I had no,
I had
clue,
no
man.
idea.
Maybe
Yeah.
that was where
Sure.
the ball pitch came from, Mark.
It's one that says ready for a change in 2025.
Oh, yeah.
But, okay, it's probably fake
Looks
then.
Yeah, I don't know about
Looks
that.
like he's bald.
Yeah,
Oh no, I can see a little bit of hair coming down there, so I don't know what's going on there. I still got mine. I'm all right.
Yeah, you got a
Yeah,
lot.
he wasn't talking about a haircut.
No, not anymore. I cut a big pile of it off.
Really?
Like that much.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's pretty short now, actually.
Yeah.
You did cut
Yeah,
it
though.
short.
I'd hardly
Holy
be a
shit.
rock and roller.
More than me.
Well, just in case I start to go bald and I want to do a comb over deal, you know how it is.
Just enough. Yeah, just enough to pull it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One problem I don't have. I don't think I'll ever have that problem. I don't think so. I
Nah.
have no problems with hair. Zero. I love it.
Yeah. I'm scared I'm going to get bald, man.
Just keep praying
Yeah,
to the bodybuilding gods, That's all I can
I've
do.
got my minoxidil. I've got my salt palmetto.
That's all you can do. Okay, gentlemen, I got to wrap this
I do
up.
like the bald look, though. I do like the bald.
Depends on
bodybuilding
Not
who
on
it
me.
is. Yeah.
Not for me, Max. Not for me.
I'd have to have a full beard to have a bald
I like
head.
Martin Fitzwater. Looks great bald.
At
Yeah,
first,
he
it was
does.
confronting. At first, it was confronting, but now it's good.
I always regretted that we never got to see the bald Lee Haney. Because he was starting to go bald there in 91.
Does Lee still hold
He
on
could've
to some
shaved
hair?
it off. I think he's shaved
He's
her
shaved
off.
her
I think so.
Yeah, because I see him bald and I'm thinking, geez, he would have looked good bald. Because Sean Ray looked great bald. Some people have hair and then you shave it off. I think Martin looks better bald.
Martin looks good.
Yeah. Sean Ray went from like flat top to bald, right?
Yeah.
He was wearing a wig.
Was he really?
Really?
No, he wasn't.
Somebody ratted him out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Ray got a wig on. Yeah, Dexter ratted him out.
Oh.
You don't remember that?
Oh, I remember when they had their thing.
Oh.
Yeah. He ratted
Yeah,
him out.
that's
He said he
right,
put a
yeah.
wig on there in 1 year, and 94 or 95 or whatever it was, and the next year he came in.
Oh, there's a video. Dexter Jackson exposes Sean Ray. Dexter Jackson has fake calves, says Sean Ray. Those guys like each other.
Yeah,
I get some views out of that little battle.
Yeah, that was
I
funny.
remember.
I bet you did. You should start doing bald comparisons. Just make guys bald when you do.
I did a haircut, a whole video based on haircut.
Did you?
And the balding look was one of my favorites. Yeah, I remember I said Martin Fitzwater. He's got the balding look.
You like the
Yes.
balding look
I love
or
it.
the bald look?
Al
The
Beckles,
balding.
the balding,
Oh, just big
Al
receding
Beckles, the Al
hairlines.
Beckles.
You love that.
just a big receive. Yes, yes. Looks like the old timey strongman. You know.
Well, no, you didn't.
Hey,
you didn't. That's
man.
why you didn't like Cbum's haircut.
So what about Nasser?
That's why I
So
hated
Nasser,
yeah,
the balding look?
Nasser, perfect.
Yeah, Nasser did look good.
Yes.
The balding look. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cbum should have did that, left it go, and he had his mustache. He would look perfect.
Man, I'm never gonna get a hair transplant sponsor for this channel at this rate. Fuck. It's ruining me.
I'd get one.
Promoting the
Just
balding.
here,
Yeah, no.
Ron Harris looks good.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ron
Ron's
Harris
came out
is-
good.
expert. Yeah. Cbum's did come out very,
Straight.
yeah, very
Mark's
straight.
most
But I wonder
hated-
if I was him, I'd start to just try to get rid of some bits, make it look a bit more like jagged and stuff. I reckon he'll fix it up.
I would
Maybe
imagine.
he just gets on a massive cycle and just tries to lose it all. It's DHT through the roof.
And it's justified. The reverse hair.
Just go to
yeah.
open. Just go to open.
Well, you think he will?
I think he will in 2026.
Yeah, you think he'll get
I think
bored
he
if I
will,
don't,
too.
if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I feel like he will. Like Jordan did it.
He's a young man.
He likes following the career of Jordan. I just have a feeling he will. Like, as long as he doesn't get injured or tear something or anything like that. Like, I just have a feeling.
I think once his kid is past 2 years old, I think he'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he did good in open, man. Like, it's people are like, oh, he didn't beat Martin. It's like he beat Sean Clarita. Sean Clarita was a pretty good version of himself, and he beat Horse MD and all these other open
a lot
guys.
of people said he did beat Martin before the finals. Prejudging, he darn near beat Martin.
Well, Fuad even said, Martin knows he's not winning after prejudging, and he was on the scorecard. But for someone who sponsors him to say that, obviously there's an opinion there, but it's hard to say when you're not there in person as well, because in person it's like you could see a different level of 3D thickness that you're like, oh well, Martin's way too big. But Ken, what did you think of that, being an open guy yourself?
So, first off, I can't imagine like just the atmosphere, competing in that show against Chris Bumstead. It just seemed like it was the Chris Bumstead show. I feel like that was part of the reason why a lot of, I know Milos has been going on this, crusade about why people didn't go there. I can understand. It's the Chris Bumstead show. It's basically Chris and everyone else. How good do they look around Chris? That's essentially what it was, right? So, I mean, think about it. Bodybuilding criteria, Martin won through and through, but when you see two of them on that stage and you hear the crowd, especially if you were there, like I have to imagine if you were there, it's hard to see it the other way that Martin won. Like based on just the way the crowd and just like people, like it looked crazy. I don't know if you guys saw the check-ins. It was like a whole entourage for Chris. People were literally there just to see Chris. They weren't even there for the show.
Proper celebrity, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a celebrity came through and all the other, so it's almost like Martin is fighting this Goliath, of a person. And, after prejudging where it's so close, and that's the thing, if it's close, it's like, well, he's Chris Bumstead. I'm definitely losing if it's close. You know what I mean? So I think Brett Wilkin explained that they were in the car and he was like, even the atmosphere, I think Martin felt like he lost, after prejudging. So I think it was good that I think bodybuilding criteria, Martin won through and through. But if Chris won, I don't think anyone would have said anything. I'll be honest. I don't think anyone would have thought otherwise.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Yep.
The internet
I totally
had Chris
agree.
winning. The internet had Chris winning, without
Big
question.
percentages. But like my
Yep.
stream that I was doing, the feedback was like Chris. You had a few people coming in. Obviously, you're going to get contrarian opinions. every time. But prejudging, that's when Martin was sweating. The tan wasn't very good on him at prejudging.
Yep.
He
Tan
missed
was
his
bad,
peak. I
yeah.
feel like he came back definitely better at finals. The tan was better.
Even in the face, he looked like he thought he
And
lost.
that's the thing. If you give that off as well,
Looked
and
assured.
you're sweating and your tan doesn't look that great, and Cbum was just the way he presented was amazing. Like,
Yeah, he's like a robot. He goes in there to do his job.
exactly the way I would have judged it is Chris prejudging, Martin finals, which on a judge's scorecard would come off as, if all the judges did that at prejudging and all the judges did it at finals. I think technically then they rejudge, or they take the however many votes at the end of finals. So I assume they judge it on the finals look. So that would give Martin the win. So I don't know if that's exactly how it works, or
Steve Weinberger explained it perfectly. I think, Chris looks good, but when you flip him to the side, that's where you start to see the bodybuilding versus classic. So Chris is kind of two-dimensional from the side, while Martin is still 3D, right? I don't know if Steve Weinberger was the head judge, but basically he was saying,
he was.
He was, right? He was basically saying Chris
Yeah.
is going to need a lot more density to actually win an open show. So where you put it like that, I completely agree with Steve, but also Steve likes mass. If it was another judge, they may have thought differently. Judges have different criteria for what they're looking for. But I definitely agree with Steve. I think that density, thickness of the muscle is definitely a criteria within bodybuilding that you have to take into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a balance, and I think that the right decision was made. Definitely at finals. Prejudging, I can definitely make a case for Chris, no doubt, because I'm a guy that loves aesthetics, and he's just keeping it all very tight. Martin started breathing through the stomach a bit, and I put so much emphasis on how someone is presenting on stage too. So that's probably my biases. Like Steve is, very much about, he appreciates the mass, the roundness, and all that a little bit more than another judge might appreciate a little bit more conditioning over that, or this or that. So yeah, in my mind, it's like a lot about how you present and everything. So yeah, after prejudging, I was like, shit, Chris is going to win this. And obviously the whole online talk as well. You didn't see many comments saying Martin's going to win after prejudging. And it's like, for them to, it sort of shows like Steve isn't corrupt, because the smart business move is give Chris the win, let him go to the Olympia. Samson, the talk of Samson versus Chris all year. Plus, could Andrew Jacks now be in the chat? And, is this the end for Derek and Hardy? Like, it just would have changed the whole narrative going into 2025.
100%.
But maybe Chris expressed that, hey, I'm not going to do 2025 no matter what. Maybe he would have said that.
I think he said that, didn't he? Or no, he said he might do it.
He said I might, or he might think about it or something. Yeah,
he would have.
I think 2026 is Cbum.
Yeah, he leaves everything open ended. But it was a great battle.
Well, you got to think, if Martin Fitzwater wasn't there, he would have won. Martin's top 4 at the Olympia.
Exactly,
that's true.
So he would have won. He would have won the show.
That's the craziness.
No, there was,
because everyone said, oh, he could potentially win a smaller pro show. That wasn't a smaller pro show, and he beat MD.
Clarita's a big deal.
There's another couple of really good guys in that lineup too that we sort of forget about.
Andrea Presti was there. Presti,
pro show winner, Open Olympic competitor. Right. So it's like he's beating Open pro show winners. So to me that's crazy. And that sort of got lost and it just became Martin versus Chris. But yeah, he beat some legit dudes.
He's the real deal, man. Chris Bumstead is the real deal. Like, people don't, and like you said, when he poses there like he's already won the show. Like I couldn't take my eyes off him. I know Mario was there, but I was like, damn, this guy has won the goddamn show. Like, look at him smiling, just give him the trophy, man. He's good. It's crazy.
Yep. It's an easy guy to give a trophy to. You're right.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Yeah.
And
he's never lost in how many years?
We saw the opposite with Martin too, because Martin looked like he was losing on his face. And Chris looked like he's like, I'm freaking winning, and just like hitting his shots. I'm like, it convinces you, man. It's one of those subconscious things when you say someone's got charisma on stage. It's just a lot of the times it's confidence, and it's the little things that someone who's confident does, like that, the way they'll smile, the way they'll hold themselves up and stuff like that. And you go, oh yeah, they've got something about them. It's got charisma. It's like they've just got all their T's and I's, dotted. So yeah.
You could see how Chris was winning at life when he walked on that stage, and it just radiated to everybody in the crowd, everybody online. Like I said, easy guy to give the trophy, and showed up fantastic, as always. That was a great battle in the previous season. It was one of my favorites, actually.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
definitely highlight.
there was some really good battles. We've got more good battles coming up. It's very early, actually, in this season. Arnold Classic isn't going to disappoint. Detroit Pro is stacking up to look really good too, and of course the New York Pro. We know that we're going to have some pretty heavy hitters there. So, Ken, I'm looking forward to seeing you on that lineup.
Arnold South America.
Yeah, that's coming up
Yeah.
too. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's right after the Detroit.
Yeah, that's right. So the first quarter is looking good. We'll see who ends up signing up for Brazil.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
100
Start
grand
of the
being
season.
given away. Yeah,
Pittsburgh's going to be big. Pittsburgh's before New York, so that's going to be
Pittsburgh's before New York, or 1 week before New York.
It's going to be pretty huge.
Do you think those
Yeah.
lineups will pretty much be replicated? Or do you think we'll get like maybe because Derek's even said he might do Pittsburgh, like if it works out. So he might roll into
Yeah.
New York or he might skip that. But those lineups could be crazy.
Arnold's quite a ways away from the Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but he said he might do it. He said because it's the first Pittsburgh Pro, so it's winning the first, and it might become like the Arnold Classic. I don't think we saw. They probably didn't see the Arnold Classic like with the Arnold Classic name the first year it came out when Rich Kaspari won, but he still got that be able to say I'm the first ever winner of the Arnold Classic. So
for Derek, it depends on how.
Exactly.
If it's a him versus Samson show, and let's say he loses to Samson, it depends on how much he lost. If it's a close loss,
That's true.
he's going to shut it down for the season and get better for the Olympia. I don't think it's in his benefit to keep competing in the season because Samson gets better. I don't know if that's the same for Derek. I know Chris Aceto's guys compete a lot, but Derek is also a Mr. Olympia winner. So his main goal is always still going to be the Mr. Olympia no matter what. So it depends on how the Arnold goes, is if we'll see Derek, at Pitts.
Yeah. Now that he's won one as well. Now, after you win in Olympia, I mean, nobody expects anything less than that when it comes to continuously stepping on stage. That's just how it is.
Derek will want that money though, because he think about this. Like Derek obviously went into that Olympia the year prior, he won $400,000. He sort of hasn't made as much as some of these other guys. Like Beirut Tabani earned more money competing last year than Derek did because he won Dubai, which was the same as third at the Olympia, and then he won another. Did he win another show? Then he got maybe like second at another. So he made.
We got second at Romania.
He probably made $40,000 more on stage or something like that, or maybe even more than Derek last year. So I'm sure Derek wants to get at least second about Arnold, get $250,000, and because we're talking about money here, and he made a lot the year prior, and he was probably somewhat banking on being top two at the Olympia last year. So he dropped from 250K to 100K being third. So it's a big drop off.
It's funny he only competed 3 times and he got all 3 medals for second and third.
That's true.
It's true.
The only guy ever to do that. Nobody else will ever do that.
So no one's ever won first, second, and third.
No.
Wow.
3 for 3. He only
consecutively
3 times.
Consecutively, you mean?
He got second the first year, and then he got first, and then this year he got third, or last year he got third. So he got.
I'm sure
he's got a silver, gold, and
he
bronze.
doesn't want to tick.
Nobody's ever.
I'm sure he wouldn't want to tick off like 4th and 5th and 6th now. So I'm sure he wants to stay in that.
Well,
some records are not meant
probably
to be
want
set.
to get another gold.
Yeah.
So that's a record he's not going to want to set, and then the record that he currently holds is. Oh yeah, me too. I think still has a ton of room to come in, better than we've ever seen. No question.
He's still young.
I mean, Derek's the youngest.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the youngest out of the top 3. I mean,
yeah. Him and Nick are about the same age.
Yeah. That's why I think we might see like a Derek Martin battle for years to come as well, because Martin's 27. He's super young, and Derek's few years older.
That's a real good matchup. Those two guys.
100%. No, still lots coming up in this, just the first quarter, like I was saying. So it's going to be, it's really going to be an exciting start to the season. Gentlemen, I do got to wrap this up though. Ken, thanks for joining us, man. Thanks for your insight on, your upcoming season. Really looking forward to seeing you on the New York Pro, and get that one under your belt. We'll get you back on and see how you feel about it.
Absolutely. It was a blast. I know, Kenson, we talk from time to time with Xavier. So it was good to finally come on like an actual, video live stream or something and just talking. Max, it's my first time meeting you. So this was great, man. I had a lot of fun. So we'll see how the season goes, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. No, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
All right, gentlemen. That's going to be it for this one. I'll catch you guys in the next one.